Boom! Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. How's it going? Yeah, it is good morning to me all the time. Yeah. Welcome to M5 Property Addicts. And as it is every Saturday evening, 8 o'clock at this time, we are here talking about anything and everything around property. But we are on here for the next kind of like 30 minutes to an hour, and we dive into a particular topic. And today we want to dive into a topic about this one here is kind of like one of those topics that a lot of people have been asking me. They sent me some couple of questions, and they've been asking, how do we do an offer to purchase, to make sure that you are safeguarded as an investor? So how do you do that? So I am going to be talking today particularly about an offer to purchase for the investor. My name is TJ. If you've never been here before, Taurai Jack, and welcome aboard. And as we go along, my ambition is that, this is an open mic. So as an open mic, you are allowed to ask questions as we go along. I'm just going to jump into the comments, and out of it, I'll jump into it and, come back to you. So it's kind of like an open mic for about an hour or so at most, right? An hour at most. But depending on how deep we are going to go on this, and wherever you are watching us from right now, I'd like to acknowledge you guys who are watching us from wherever you're watching me from. And I want to say good morning to you. It is 8 p.m. South African time, and welcome aboard. In the comments there, let me know where you're watching us from before we just start. So good morning. So let me know, where are you watching us from? So that's the first thing. And I'm going to jump into the comments a little bit. But if you've never been here this is like your first time, and you're wondering, who is this guy? Well, I am that guy who was in debt. I was an employee. I used to work for a bank back in the days. So I'm a former banker. And I used to work for a bank. And from there, I was just trying to find a little bit to put more bacon and the eggs on the table, and maybe one or two times, go on a holiday. And out of that, I started off a business. I did very well, and that business was selling diapers. So I used to sell diapers before. Yeah, it's a good business because you're never out of business. Kids are always pooing all the time, right? So it's a good business, right? That's the first thing. So I used to buy diapers, and I would wholesale them out to in the locations. Was my first kind of like business. My second other business, I'm not giving them in terms of order, but I'm just giving you my background so that you know. And out of that, I also went into car rental. So car rental is that a lot of people don't have credit cards, but they can afford. They can afford to give you cash. So what I used to do back in the days is I actually used to buy cars. So you could buy like a Polo Classic, kind of like for 2,000-3,000 rand. And you could rent it out for around maybe about 5,000-6,000 rand cash, but you could obviously need to put in all the wheels and bells to make sure that it is secure. But I did all of this whilst I was still employed, and I made some good money out of it. And then I went into chickens. I love chickens. If you know me, I'm a Nando's guy. I'm not a KFC guy. It's a little bit greasy for me. You can see I'm a bit of a skinny guy. So I like Nando's a little bit. I like being healthy, because the reason why I like being healthy is that, if you are healthy, your chances of living a longer life, are good. And it's options. You get the option to be of good health, and for that reason, you can live longer. And by living longer, basically all I'm saying here is you can live longer, healthier, so there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm a chicken guy. I love Nando's and all of those guys that do chickens. What meat is good for you? You can check in with any doctor, but if they say no, just tell them that TJ said yes. Okay, so as you're watching us, let me know where you're watching us from. I see a couple of people. Someone says they're from Hatfield. Someone is from Dorfontein. Good stuff. Thank you for watching. Then, so whilst I was doing that, right, all I was trying to do, like I did mention, was to put, bacon and eggs and maybe to go to Durban and maybe go to Kruger National Park for a holiday, because these things were things that I'd never seen before. When I was growing up, we didn't have that, those regular holidays and things like that. So I wanted that because I had seen it obviously from other people, and it kept on intriguing me. But I then stumbled upon property, but I don't want to bore you with all of that. I want you to kind of like understand where I'm coming from and where I am right now, and what kind of like gives me the right to have the conversation with you. Currently, I am the captain of the business that is called M5 Property Addicts. And M5 Property Addicts is a business in 4 cities, soon to be 5. I keep on talking about that. We are coming, Bloemfontein, one of these lovely days. And out of these 4 cities, we are in Cape Town, we are in Durban, we are in Johannesburg, and in Pretoria. And shout out to all my business partners that are sitting within that area. Rita, Hubert, Bevan, Daniel, and Elise, right? Having said that, I struggled with the fact that, when I was doing all of this business, I made good money, but when I went into chickens, I really lost a lot of money, like proper money, guys. Like, I was in debt for maybe about 7-8 million, and eventually, by the time we sold off the farm, I was in debt with around about 5 million. But when I started going to school in terms of understanding what you can do with property, I soon realized that you actually don't need money to be doing properties. It's not a hindrance. Money everywhere. You just need to be able to think straight, to think creatively. Yeah, to think creatively in terms of where can you get the money. I've got one of my other business partners, her name is Celindile, and she runs a stokvel. And for some of you, a stokvel is crowdfunding. That's what it's all about. And we have crowdfunded, I think, just about 4 million, if I'm not mistaken, there to date in 1 year. And all of that money we have gone in, we've put it to work. But over and above that, the business that I kept in, that business, as we are in 4 cities, we've got around about 200, just above 200 tenants that we've got across the country, and an additional 350 students that are across in the coastal lands that we that are staying within our properties, and they get to rent properties from us. And all of this, right? I actually wrote a book that's called From Bed Dead to Property Mogul, and this book is literally just available for you, right? You can jump online, get it for free. It really is available for free. You can jump on it, and we'll send it through to you. But today, that's not the conversation that we want to talk to. I want to jump into an offer to purchase. Offer to purchase. Number one, I want to make sure that I am talking to a property investor, right? So good morning to you, Mangahung. I think let me read the people here. Tepo says they're in Pretoria. Percy, they said they're in Johannesburg. Mohao says they are in Hatfield, Pretoria. So if you're joining us and you haven't told us where you're joining us from, that's great. Please do so there before we jump in. And as and when you have questions, ask those questions. This is what this hour is dedicated for. It is an open mic. So I come with a question, or I come with a topic, and you get to ask all the questions around that. But it doesn't mean that you can only limit your question to the question or the topic that I'm talking about. It can be in anything at all. So I am here, Uncle TJ, you can call me. I am here to make sure that you are successful within your journey. So let's jump on and start to talking about an offer to purchase. Right. What is an offer to purchase? Right. What is an offer to purchase? And it's very important that we actually understand some of these terminologies, as and when we go in, then we are able actually to understand what these terminologies are. I want to stress the fact that if whatever you are involved in, right, for some people, property might not be the first thing for you, and that's okay. You can be doing other things. If you jump into property and it is your first kind of like your investment, I am all up for investing. That's my thing. I want people to be investing. I want investing. So if you're not investing, shame on you, right? I want people to invest and invest, invest, invest. What do I mean by there are so many things that you can invest in. What is very important for me is to make sure that you are investing in something. I don't want us to be people that are always on the consuming side, because if you're earning money from either from your job or wherever you are and you're a consumer, when the rainy day comes in, you are going to be nothing. And I want you to avoid that. And for me, property is one vehicle that I've chosen, but there's many vehicles that I have. I've got, I think, maybe around about 6, 7 of vehicles that I've got, but I predominantly speak about property. And I think next year I want to actually start to talk about all my other vehicles that I have. It's no secret that I have a book, right? It's no secret. It's also another vehicle where I'm also earning some money. So that's two that are very, very obvious. And the others, I'm going to be talking about them. I think the other one that is also obvious, if you've been hanging out with us for a bit, is that we've got a school that is called M5 Property Varsity. And we teach people there how to do property. So there you are, 3 forms of income that are coming through from different angles. And I'm just talking about that because what I want you to do at the end of the day is you've got some system that is giving you money. You've got some system where you're plugging in your money and your money is working for you rather than you working for money all the time. So if ever you're going to remember me for anything at all, it's not about property. If you're ever going to remember me, please remember me for the purposes that you got to be making money whilst you got to be making money. Your money needs to be making money for you. In short, you gotta make money whilst you're sleeping. Somehow, figure it out, right? And that's what I would like you guys to know me for. But today we want to talk about the offer to purchase. And what is an offer to purchase? So I'm gonna jump in and start talking about the actual topic for today. And as we go along, ladies and gentlemen, remember this is an open mic. Ask the question, right? An offer to purchase, as you may know, is a document. It's a legally binding contract. So it's a document. Normally, an estate agent is the one that is going to pass you what is called an offer to purchase. And this document becomes binding if once it is signed by both parties. Who are the both parties? It is the seller and the purchaser. In this case, I am going to talk heavily about you being a purchaser, utilizing the offer to purchase. However, I also want to stress the fact that it's not just generally the estate agent who might provide the offer to purchase. As an investor, it might be of importance for you to actually engage with your attorney, because remember, this is a legal document, so it has been derived from someone who does, who's a lawyer or who does with law. So it's of importance for you to also engage a lawyer and ask them to draft you a template of an offer to purchase. Just in case one day you might get to a property, and this property, the seller does not have an estate agent, and in this case, you can present them with your offer to purchase. I've also been involved in other circumstances where I have asked the estate agent if I can use my own offer to purchase, and they have said yes. So it's not unheard of that as an offer to purchase, as a buyer, you can provide an offer to purchase. That's the one thing I just want to make sure that it's possible. So there's flexibility. Remember, this is just a contract. So anyone can draw up a contract. What the estate agent is doing is creating convenience, and they're giving you one template that is available. But I want to stress the fact that, when you're working with an estate agent, in many cases, the estate agent is not working for you. They are working for the seller. And for that reason, the contract is drafted in a way that it is siding the seller. So if you are one of those people, we are very serious about your journey in the property space, you do want to get to a space where you want to have your own contract, because if you have your own contract or your offer to purchase, then in that way, when you're presenting your offer to purchase, it has been drafted to favor you. Okay, so what are those some of the things that we can jump in to make sure that, when you're doing your offer to purchase, some of these things will favor you upfront? Okay, what are those some of the things? And that's what I want to unpack today, so that by the time I am done, you can actually be able to go on any offer to purchase. Anyone can give you an offer to purchase, whatever estate agent, and you know exactly where to jump in and where to change to favor you and for whatever circumstance. I came up in an article at one point, and this article was online, and someone had written this article, and they were talking about what you need to know when you are doing an offer to purchase. And with that, I figured, they are actually onto something here, but this doesn't really favor me as an estate agent, as an investor. So a buyer who's an investor. So the first thing that I spoke about is that, remember, you can have your own offer to purchase. So there's no one who is ever going to say you cannot. It's all about negotiation. Now, the estate agent, whenever you're dealing with an estate agent, things are a little bit slightly different, because you need to dance with the estate agent. What do I mean by that? Your estate agent is the go-to person, right? So you might remember, some of you, we did a live, I think not this last Saturday, but the other Saturday, we were talking about negotiating, right? And on that weekend, we were talking about negotiating. And around negotiating, I also want to stress the fact that when you are now presenting your offer to purchase, and we haven't dived in deep here, I'm just trying to give you guys some snippets of what you can do. And as I'm talking now and you've got some questions, it is time that you can ask those questions. So as I go along, right, talking about negotiations, you need to recognize that your estate agent is a person. They are just a warm-bodied like you, but obviously they have their interest on the money, because they are going to get paid the commission, not from you, but from the seller. So for that reason, their antennas are always going to be around, inclined to work on behalf of the seller. So when you are now presenting an offer to purchase, and you say to the estate agent, can I give you my offer to purchase? Chances are they're going to say upfront, no. Why are they going to be saying no? Because they don't know you, because they are not working for you, and because they already have their own templates which they understand. And chances are they've never been asked with anyone else to work with their own offer to purchase. So for that reason, it's going to sound weird for them. Like, you are not an estate agent, how can you have an offer to purchase? And that has happened to me before. So it's not common, but it's not unheard of, right? I've presented offers many a times, offer to purchases, to my estate agents, and it has worked. But however, I also want to stress the fact that sometimes you can also contract the estate agent. So the estate agent, how do you contract the estate agent? Just like the estate agent who goes out and finds properties and they are contracted with the seller, you can also contract the estate agent and ask the estate agent that, look, I am looking for a property, and this is the property that I'm looking for. All right? So you give them your requirement, which means that by the time they are coming through to you with some requirements or meeting your requirements, they're working for you. But the beauty of it is that you are not the one who's paying them. They are going to be paid with the seller. Okay, cool. I like that. So let me jump in some of the things that might be of importance. I'm going to talk about them. I'll give you context in terms of, from a property investor, what do you need to be cautious around. I think you will find this on every offer to purchase. But if you have something else that you want to unpack, you stumble upon something and you're not so sure how to work around it, again, I'm always checking out on the comments to see how best we can ask something or respond to something. So it means that if you come up with anything that is difficult and you don't know how to maneuver around it, it might be a week from now, a month from now, just come back to this video here and ask the question on there. It will come through straight to us and we will be able to respond. Okay, on the offer to purchase. That's what I'm talking about. Now, on any offer to purchase, these are some of the things that you're going to find. The first one that I want to talk about is that there is a section where it talks about who is buying the property. Who is buying the property? So you could be, let's say you have a company and you are the same person who owns the company. So you own a company, right? And in this case, you are actually now signing that offer to purchase on behalf of your company. What normally happens is that a lot of people miss it. And I've missed it before, right? And when I was starting off, so I put in my name on it. And I didn't put in the company's name. So I put my name on it, and halfway through the transaction, the attorney says to me that you are the one who's buying the property. And I said, no, my company is buying the property. I'm a big advocate for people investing in a company. Why? Because of the tax benefits that comes with companies. And if you don't know, I've got a whole lot of videos and series where myself and Lebo, who's our tax resident, co-host with me, we talk about taxes. So if you don't know, check out some of the other videos that we speak about taxes. So you got your company there, and out of the company, you are the one who was wanting to buy the property, but you forgot to write the name of the company. And now it is at an attorney. Some attorneys will be insisting that no, the offer to purchase was signed, you signed that you're going to sign for it. So a good offer to purchase should have somewhere where it says buyer and representative. So it's two separate sections where you can actually write in two different people. For some estate agent, their offer to purchase, it doesn't have that. It will just say buyer, right? So if it just says buyer, so who's the buyer? In this case, you are not the buyer, right? The company is the buyer. So you will put your company name. So as an investor, I'm advocating that you're buying in a company, in a trust, in a separate vehicle from you. So that's number one. Who is the buyer? So you're putting in there, but who is the warm body who is going to represent this buyer? So the buyer, in our case, company ABC Trading, and thereafter who's representing, it is Taurai Jack who's representing. So the estate agent is going to ask for FICA documents, and then I'm going to provide my details as the FICA. In some cases, you might have maybe one or two companies, and you're not so sure which company you're going to be buying with. Again, on the buyer, you can stipulate with your estate agent to say, look, I've got two companies, but I'm not so sure which one I'm going to pay. Can I leave this to be confirmed by date X? You can leave that open, or you can literally type in to be confirmed, right? And you put in there under the company, and under the representative, you put yourself. What have you just done? You just safeguard yourself from that attorney who's going to come in and say, no, you are the buyer as the individual. Because if you are really wanting to buy it in the property in your name, in the company's name, and all of a sudden now these guys are insisting that you are buying in your personal name, obviously that has a bigger impact. Imagine if this property is a 4 or 5 million rand property. The second thing then I want to speak to there is, it's not unheard of that you can actually put in the company's a company to be formed if you don't have a company. So you can put in your name, right? But the company itself, it can be to be formed at a later date, right? Not now, right? Now, there is a section that is called conditions of sale, and I want to dive in a little bit into that a little bit later. But some of the easy conditions of the sale is, for an example, that the purchase price is dependent on something else, right? So let me talk about that in terms of the purchase price. So your purchase price, you might see on some document, is dependent either on number one, you getting a bond. So is getting a bond 100%? I generally want to say that it is dependent on me getting a bond of 100%. But I also tell my estate agent that, if I'm not able to get this, I can top up whatever with my own cash, but I am wanting to get the bank's money. The bank's money is much, much cheaper these days. Sometimes you could be, as an investor, you're selling another property, and the condition of the price is actually dependent on you selling the other property, right? So a lot of estate agents don't really like this because they know that potentially that other property, it might take a bit of time, so there might be a delay on this property, right? So that's something there that you need to be looking out for. Now, then there comes in another topic, and I think we are now at point number 4. And point number 4 speaks to a deposit, right? Now, a deposit, this is very tricky. And I have seen people being scammed out of their money with deposits, because on some contracts, I'm talking about the seller and the estate agent. So on the contract, and it's extremely, extremely important, guys, that you read the contracts. Like, if you're an investor, right, it's extremely important that you read, not just reading the contracts, but reading any form of literature out there, because the more you're accustomed to read, when a contract is being presented to you, you can read it quickly. I am one of those people that never used to read until in the last 5 to 10 years. I've been now consumed in reading, and it's now becoming easier for me to support some of these things. So I want to talk about that. Right. Nowhere is it a law. Nowhere is it a law that you need to provide deposit. I want to stress that one out, right? However, a lot of estate agents, or should I say a lot of real estate companies out there, will kind of like suggest that you need to put in a deposit. Why? Because they say that it shows your commitment. You're a property investor. My livelihood is dependent on buying properties, right? So if I'm not putting in a deposit, it doesn't mean that I am not serious about it. I am. I have 100% commitment on it. But because I am always wanting to utilize the bank's money, so remember, sometimes if you put in a deposit and then you take the same property to the bank is going to put in a consideration of the deposit that you have put in. So if it is 10%, you are guaranteed that the bank is not going to give you that a bond of 100%. Most of the cases, they are going to give you 90% because you have said that on the contract, you have a 10%. They also kind of like lie to us and tell us that, no, if you put in a deposit, your chances of getting a bond is very high. Come on. You are the estate agent. You're not the bond originator, right? The bond originator is there. But anyways, these are some of the tactics that they utilize to ensure that you contribute some deposit. Something that I want to now stress out around this deposit, because this is where I have seen people being scammed. Hold on, let me just have my coffee and my vodka here. I need to keep strong in here for the next 1 hour. It's very important. Trying to keep sober. Now let's talk about that deposit thing. The deposit is, sometimes you might put in a deposit, and it's very important. I want to stress this out, guys. You need to read your contract. Some contracts come in and the deposit is non-refundable. Whoa! And then you put in a deposit, the deposit goes maybe to the seller, and then the deal falls through, or it doesn't go through, and then you're crying out for your deposit, say you want your deposit back, and they show you the contract, it says it's non-refundable. It's wasted time when we were waiting for you to get a loan. I've seen that. And then you're like, no, that's not right. Let me consult my lawyer. It's too late. You didn't read the damn contract, right? Had you read the contract, then all of these things would have not happened. So be careful, guys, when you're putting in these deposit things. When you're paying a deposit, the second issue around paying a deposit, I'm not even a fan of putting in deposits. I'm not. When you're putting in deposit, in most cases, the contract is going that you give your deposit to the conveyancer, right, to the attorney. And in this case, this conveyancer is not even working for you. Remember who appoints the conveyancer here. It is the seller. They are the ones that appoint the conveyancer. So who is the conveyancer working for? For the seller. And if things go wrong in the transaction, does it mean that the conveyancer is going to give you your money? Well, I've had issues where it has just been a mission for me to get back my deposit because the money was with the conveyancer. So how do you work around that? So number one, in terms of the deposit, what I prefer to do, right, and I advocate for everyone to do this, to do the same, especially if you're a property investor and you're serious about your business, and you're serious about safeguarding your money. The first thing that I do on deposit, if I really need to put in deposit, and that's a big if, the banks can give you a guarantee. Okay, that's number one. The bank can give you a guarantee. So you can go to your own bank and you can raise guarantee. The money is sitting in your bank account. You have control of that money. And your bank will then hold that money and releases a guarantee to the next person. And I am happy with that option. Why am I happy with that option? It's because if things go wrong, I can terminate that with my bank. I am in control. I'm not going to be chasing someone, sending 45 emails to someone to say, pay me back my money. Right. That's number one. Number two, recently, I think it was Standard Bank. I think it is Standard Bank. They've got a product that they have, which is called an escrow account. And the escrow account just basically means that you're putting money in an account, and that money is met or is going to be released to the next person on conditions of 1, 2, 3. So if conditions are not met and you're the one who's deposited the money there, you can actually withdraw it because the conditions haven't been met. Again, you are in control. My happy position is that for any property investor, if you are serious about your journey, you should be having in your team, I speak about the power team from time to time, and I say that, business, or should I say property, is just as good as playing sport. So if you don't have team members on your team, and in this case here, I'm talking about your own conveyancer, right? TJ, how can I put in my own conveyancer when they have said no, they are going to use their conveyancer? Yes, they have the first right to on the contract to choose a conveyancer, but it doesn't mean that you mustn't have your own conveyancer. You can put in your own conveyancer. They will decline, but you can still work with your own conveyancer, right? I just prefer to work with an attorney of my own, and that's why I hang out with Elise on my team, right? And Elise, all she is that now when I am going to put in an offer to purchase and they insist on a deposit, I am going to send that money to Elise. In this case, Elise is working for me, so you can find your own Elise, right? Or directly work with Elise as well. Because you are in control, Elise is working for you. And Elise, what she'll do in the back of you giving her the money, she is going to raise the guarantee on your behalf to the conveyancer of the seller. And if things go wrong, Elise can pull back that money. And that's how you safeguard it. So this point around deposit here, I've just seen a whole lot of, things going wrong around that. But bearing in mind that if the deposit has gone to the conveyancer, whichever conveyancer it is, I think there's another document that you also need to sign on top of that. And this has been a problem in the past as well with so many agents, so many conveyancers that I've worked with. Sometimes they actually don't invest that money. Not to say that when they do invest the money anyways, you're going to get lots of money. Like right now, probably it's what, 3%, 4%, right, per year, right? So with that, it basically means that when you pay deposit to whoever the conveyancer is, that money needs to earn interest, and the interest belongs to you. So when the refund is coming back, it's not just the refund, it's also the interest that needs to be paid back to you. We are still talking about the offer to purchase. I know there's quite a bit of this that we need to be talking about. Right, I am going to jump into questions for now, but I think I've got maybe, let's see how many other topics I need to be giving you guys. I've got about 3 other topics that I need to introduce here whilst we are still talking about the offer to purchase. Right now, we've just spoken about around about 4 to 5 things that I've spoken about here. Right, so I'm going to stop here. Let me jump on to the questions here and some of the other questions that are coming through. By the way, you're most welcome to ask any questions that are outside the offer to purchase. It's cool, right? You can ask me any other question. So let me jump onto it. Tepo is asking a question maybe. Yes, it is a question. What are the clauses to add on offer to purchase for deal making that Aslam was alluding to that gives us control of the deal without purchasing it? Right. So I think let's jump on to that one, right? And Tepo here, he has obviously been listening to some of the other videos. Well done on that. So if you're a person who is sourcing out properties for other people, so you're looking for properties for other people, so how do you gain control of the property? Okay, how do you get control of the property? Let me speak about my 2-bed 1-bath. Back in the days, I bought a 2-bed 1-bath for 160,000 that I went on to renovate for 50,000, and I sold it for around about 450, I think it was. Now, I didn't have the money at that time, but when I secured the deal, and I want to say secure, what was required of me to secure the deal? And Tepo here, I want to give you examples of what Aslam was talking about, and this is just on the surface, but actually in the varsity, there's a full-on course around sourcing that you can literally do for 600 Rand, and it's very, very in-depth from what I'm going to share with you now. But let's jump on. Number one, when you're putting in an offer to purchase, I did mention that you can stipulate by that to a company to be confirmed. So it is you who's signing in, but you are indicating to the estate agent that there is another company, and that company, I might be the one who is buying that deal from you, so which means that my company name can be on there. So that's number one. Number two, it is also good for you to indicate to your estate agent to say, look, I work with people with money, and I am the middleman here. So for that reason, I would like to make sure that we are not going to sell this deal to someone else, but I want to make sure that I can go to my people, my partners, or my investors, and they can still be able to close this deal. But I don't want to do that if I haven't secured the deal. Depending on the estate agent, if they understand what you're doing, they can hold on to the deal for you without you signing on any paperwork. I've seen that happening. It has happened before to me. Or they might say to you, okay, fine, you put in an offer, but how sure are you that your investors are good investors? If you're saying they're very sure, bearing in mind here, you might not even have an investor at that time. But I always say to people, when you go out there to look for a deal, it's not about the deal alone. You need to also be checking out potential investors before you go and look for the deal. So you are working for the investor on their requirement. And then the number three that I then want to speak to on that one is that you then sign in that offer to purchase, and then you put in the condition. One condition that you can put in there is that your partner needs to agree to that. So who's your partner? The investor that you're going to meet, which is me, and my company is going to be in there. And out of that, I can then buy that property, and me and you will co-sign, but you are just my representative. So you are working for me. Does that make sense, Temple? I'm hoping that that makes sense. That is like kind of like 101 of doing it, but there's many other ways that you can do it. Okay, cool. Ayanda, merci beaucoup. Yes, merci beaucoup, Ayanda. How's it going? Hakiso says, can you flip a property sold through a bank, i.e. easy sell? You can. You can do it. It can be done. How best can you do it? So you put in an offer. Let's assume that this property here that you are wanting to flip, and the property is worth, let's say, what? 500,000. Okay, let's make it very easy, Hakiso, for you there. It's worth 500,000, and you put in an offer of 160,000. Okay, they are going to stipulate to you the period in which you need to get the bond, right? And Tempo, this might also be something of note to you as well. So the period in which you put in an offer to purchase, right? There is that time where in the offer to purchase, they ask of you to say, how long are you going to take to do a bond, right? In some cases, they might say 7 days, 30 days, 40 days. You can put in whatever time that you want. You know, it's your contract. For as long as the bank is going to accept that, it's mutual to you. A contract is just as good as dating, right? If I meet a lady down the road and I say to her, hi, how's it going? Can we go to the movies? And then she says, hi, how's it going? Yes, I would like to. That is already a contract because both of us, we have agreed. So the terms and conditions of going to the movies are now clear, right? So we are going to go to the movies. And I'm the one who's proposed it. So chances are I am the one who is going to pay for it. But if I don't have the money for paying for it, then I might want to look for money before we get to the movies so that I do have the money to actually pay. Now, in this case of doing a flip, so the same applies in the example of the movie. So you put in your offer of 160,000, but in between the date that you have signed with the bank, right, and the time that you're supposed to provide guarantees, which could be 30 days, which could be 10 days, it doesn't matter. You now need to find someone else that you are going to sell the property for 450 or for 500 or for 300. It doesn't really matter the price. I should say that it does matter because you want to make profit obviously out of the flip, isn't it? So for that reason, I would say to you I would then say maybe the selling price is 400,000, and out of that, if I subtract my 160 from my 400, then I am making that profit. And in this case, our transfer is very little. Our profit it's big. So for that reason, I am making some money out of it. Does it make sense? Right? So in this case, it's about the time lag between what the bank requires you to put in as guarantees and for you to go and sell the property to whoever that you want to sell to. Right? Make sense? Tepo says it makes sense on the direction that I gave earlier on there in terms of the clauses of the offer to purchase. Okay, let the questions come in. This is what it's all about, open mic. We've got around about 10 minutes to go in whilst we are talking about the offer to purchase. I'm going to go back again to some of my comments. But whilst I'm going back there, I am happy to entertain some more questions around this. It is open mic. You're most welcome to ask me anything that you might need guidance on. Right. That was nice. Okay, good stuff. Now, let's go into in terms of the offer to purchase, right? So I remember we are talking about the offer to purchase. On your offer to purchase, there is a clause in most cases that is called, it might be a paragraph, or let me just say it's a clause, right? There is a clause for fixtures and fittings. And I want to speak to this point here because many a times, and this happened to me, by the way, when my wife and I bought our first property for living in. So in this property that we were buying to live in, there was actually some cupboards that were on the wall. And we remember vividly when we were viewing the property, there were some cupboards, but when we moved in, those cupboards were gone, right? Now, but on the offer to purchase, we didn't stipulate those. In short, all fixtures and fittings are supposed to be part and parcel of the sale. So in other words, whenever you are buying a property, right, and if you're to turn the house upside down and nothing else falls out, that's what you are buying. However, sometimes you might actually want to stipulate the fixtures and fittings that you're making reference to. Like, for instance, you might be buying a property and it's got a DSTV. But who does DSTV these days when Netflix is around and all of these other guys that are much smaller? I mean, where you're paying much less compared to the DSTVs. But having said that, let's say there is a DSTV dish, and you buy the property, you put in an offer, and all of a sudden the DSTV dish is not there. So in most cases, you might say to your ESET agent, hey, but look what happened here. They took out the DSTV. Or you might want to draw a list on the offer to purchase, and then your ESET agent will say, nah, that's part and parcel of fixtures and fittings. Sometimes it is good to actually stipulate clearly what fixtures and fittings you are making reference to. Don't assume, because if you assume, then that's where the noise starts. I've got a buddy of mine called Leroy. He's out in Boksburg. He's a very close friend of mine. He's a property investor out in Boksburg. He literally grew up there. And the one day, actually, there's a property that he bought. And on that particular property that he bought, part and parcel of fixtures and fittings was that there was a generator on the property. We all know generators, they are in 100,000s, right? On this property, the generator, by the time he moved in, the people had taken the generator, right? And they had uninstalled it and they'd taken it out. So he asked the question, how come, you didn't put the generator in there? Luckily, they were chasing some other money from him, so he ended up doing a swap for the generator and the money that he was owing them. But already that could have been a point of contagious, right? The other thing that I also want to talk about here is that many a times as an investor, on your conditions, there might be a whole lot of things that you want to put in. And I want to talk about some of those things. What can you put in your conditions, and why do you want to put this in your conditions? Firstly, if you are buying a property, remember this is not about buying a property for you to move in. This is about buying a property for investment. If the property was being rented out, the first thing that I want to get is the current rent roll of the property. I'll put that under conditions that I would like to have the current rent roll of the property. However, do I care about the tenants that are in there? No, I don't, because I have been bitten quite a lot of times with inheriting tenants. So I do not inherit tenants. Last year, at the beginning of this year, I broke my own law and I processes, and I did say I bought 3 buildings at the same time, and we were like, we are buying these properties all at the same time. Maybe let's inherit these tenants, and we did inherit some tenants. Whoo! It gave us a mission during COVID. all my other properties, we were not having issues. On these particular properties that we inherited these tenants, we had nightmares, like proper nightmares. So guess what? I don't inherit anybody, right? You could be as beautiful as you are. I ain't taking nobody's child. No. Yeah. It's just problematic. You know what I mean? It's different when you're getting married to someone who's got kids than buying a property that has tenants. Even if you're vetting them, I'm like, no. Okay. Now, that's the first thing. The second thing that I also want to insist on my offer to purchase under my conditions, special conditions, right, is I want to know, especially if this property is being rented out, I also want to understand the current utilities. So I generally ask anything from 3 to 4 months utilities. That way, it gives you an indication of how much money you need to be budgeting for utilities. That's number one. And then number two, also see how best can you optimize your property in terms of the spend on the property. Were they prepaid meters on the properties? Were they collecting? How much were they collecting? So you can already start to see all of those things way up front from a data perspective, right? And you can see between what was being built from the council versus what was being collected. And out of that, you are not being caught with a surprise when you've moved in. Because it's going to take you a bit of time to see the surprise. So with that, you ask for all of this data up front. The other thing that I then ask for, which on my conditions, is that if they are prepaid meters, I already want to have all the pictures of the prepaid meters. I want to have the numbers of the prepaid meters. I also want to know who the company is upfront, and I would have called them to ask them of the process to change banking details of that, because that can be a nightmare as well. And without knowing their conditions, you might want now, by the time that you are moving in and you are looking after the property and the property is yours, and you now knock on their door to say, I'm changing this, and then they give you a whole lot of grocery list, and that grocery list, you don't have it. The seller has that, and because you have paid all the money now, the seller is like, that's your problem. So they've checked out, and you are moved in, and that's now you getting a problem, right? So that's also of importance to me. Something else that's also important to me under special conditions is that I want to have the evidence of the plans. Does the property have plans, and where are those plans? I want to have a copy of it, and if they were from 19 long ago, I want them as they are from 19 long ago, right? Why do I want them? Because at least I can validate what is on the ground versus on the paper, because tomorrow I don't want the council to come in and then all of a sudden there is this other place that was built on and is not on the plan, because the municipality are going to give penalty to you. All right. Now, the other thing also that I also generally ask for under special condition is that I am going to ask for a vacant property. So I don't want to have anyone in there, so they need to give them notice. All right. The last one that I then generally put in, I've got lots of conditions that I put in here, but it's also dependent on the actual property, right? So, for instance, if they are saying that they were getting, from a rent perspective, their rent roll is sitting on, like, say, 20,000, I might ask for the evidence of that 20,000. Irrespective that I am going to be buying this property and I am going to have my own tenant, because sometimes what you're buying is the income on the property, not really the property, isn't? So for that reason, you want to see the money where it's been coming in. And that way also you can then be able to see whether they have been collecting the 20,000 that they've been talking about. I don't want to see a piece of paper that's been sent to me and they're saying that's their rent roll, but in actual fact, they've been getting 5,000. That's why they are moving out, because they're not able to fill up that place. So there's a problem. There's a problem with maybe within that area. So what are you really buying? Okay. I'm hoping that this has given you a little bit of value. I've got around about 5 minutes, and within that 5 minutes, I want to go back onto the questions and maybe answer a couple of questions there before we close. But if this has been of value for you, thumbs up, give me some thumbs up there. And we'll be doing quite a lot of these every Saturday, 8 o'clock. I'll come out and we'll talk about this. We'll talk about a different topic. And if there's a topic that you want us to cover, a particular question, just drop it in the comments there. And that will be our next topic. We'll talk about it. My job on here is to give you value so that you can understand how these things work practically. Okay, cool. So let's go on to the next question. Ayanda says, please make a video on joint ventures, financing through joint ventures. Should I? Okay, cool. Ayanda, I think that one there, it's a wide, extremely wide. It is just as good as asking TJ, please make a video on cooking a meal that will make me full. Does it make sense what I'm asking? So it can be anything, right? So Ayanda, my question there to you is, what kind of a joint venture? So let's talk about your problem. What is your problem, right? What is your problem? Why do you want to joint venture with others, right? I've done a few videos around partnerships. I think at average, maybe about 15 videos around partnerships, how to find partners, how to work with partners, things like that. Some of them could be on Facebook, and that's why we moved away from Facebook, by the way, because some of these videos, you can't find them now on Facebook because, they are so down in the timeline. And on YouTube, we can categorize things in different compartments. So I think, Ayanda, if you're still listening, just give me a comment there, a follow-up question. My follow-up question to you is, what are you solving for, right? Why are you wanting to joint venture? So for instance, I'll give you an example. I think it was last week, Thursday, I did go out to the east, and I am joint venturing with someone because they've got a house that's half done, right? They want to finish it off. They're looking for around about 600,000, and on that property we can finish it off, and the total spend on building the property would be maybe around about 1,615, and we could sell it for 2 million, right? So we're splitting the profits there, right? So I'm making good money on it, right? In putting in my 600. So the reason why I'm joint venturing with her is she has a problem, right? The person that I'm joint venturing with, but her problem is money. So she's coming to me. I've got the money, but I also have the expertise to finish it up properly, right? And together we can then sell it, and that's a joint venture. So that's my question to you is, what is the problem that you're solving for to joint venture? I also have a course, Ayanda, that is called Finding Private Money. You can buy that for 600 Rand. It's in the Varsity, M5 Property Varsity, and it's about, 11 hours of content. And it talks about joint ventures. It talks about finding private money. So money that's outside the banking system, or how to partner up with people. I'm hoping that that's going to help you as well. Okay, we are on the top of the hour. It is 9 o'clock. I would like to jump off, but I am going to stay maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. Please allow me to do that because I want to get to Tsepo and Khagiso's question. And the Tsepo's question is, so that means that old contract would fall away and the new contract entered into. Yeah. You're making reference to my earlier point. Yes, Tsepo, that's what it means. Khagiso, how to organize viewing for your potential buyers without disclosing to the seller or agents that you are actually trying to flip. So Khagiso, in my view, right, I am a relationship-based person, right? I am a relationship-based person. What do I mean by that? I am transparent because I like to be transparent. And let me tell you why I like to be transparent. Especially if I'm working with an estate agent. These people are not dumb. And these people, they've been in the game maybe longer than you've been in the game. So for me, I generally want to I'll make known to my estate agent. I'll give you an example. I've got an estate agent who's out in Pretoria, like Pretoria, that's very close to Bella Bella. So let's just call it far Pretoria. I've got an estate agent who's there, and he gets, I am Johannesburg based, and he gets properties in Johannesburg. When I started off with him, I was open and I used to tell him that, I'm not the one who's buying. I am actually either might sell it on to other people and things like that. And at first, he would drive down all the way from Pretoria, this is about 60, 70 kilometers, to come and see me and all of those things. Our relationship matured. And as our relationship matured, guess what started happening, Kagiso? He started sending me keys to empty houses, right? And say, TJ, this is a property that I've got. I think it fits in the criteria that you're looking for. Let me know when you have closed it. Now, all of a sudden, the property is mine. I can do whatever I want. I can go in there. I can do viewings. I can do show house and all of those things that I can do to my investors. I started off exactly doing what you're trying to do, Kagiso, which is to either to flip. But for me, I never used to. I didn't do a lot of flips because I just feel like they're a little bit tricky. You really need to know what you're doing. But sourcing, I started off sourcing. So sourcing was great for me. So I can see there that's what you're also trying to do. So sourcing, getting into a deal and then sell it to the next person, that I did very well. And because I've always been open with my estate agent, not every estate agent is going to like what you are trying to do. Some of them would choose a finger and go play far away. Some of them will be like that, right? But for those that really understand business, they've got a third person who's working in their team. So for instance, this estate agent that I'm talking to, he literally sent me how many properties? I think it was on Wednesday or Thursday. He sent me 12 properties to look at, all prepared, and he's like, TJ, I understand. Can you get these things out to your investors? Now, a person like that understands that the moment he's going to send it to me, I'm going to do my work, so which means I'm also working for him. And he's also going to get commission out of it. And in some cases, when I source them on, I split my sourcing fee with him. I'm very transparent with him. So I suggest that you play within that area of being transparent and tell them what you're trying to do. Because the moment that you are trying to hide it and not disclosing, my challenge is that let's assume that you've got Tracy, who's your estate agent. You sign an offer to purchase and you say you are happy with. But now all of a sudden you have brought in 5, 10 potential investors and time is ticking. What do you think Tracy is going to think of you? And do you think that Tracy is going to work with you on the next deal? I don't think so. But try it. It might work for you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been great hanging out with you today. Don't forget to grab my book. It is on my page. And if you're one of those people that are saying, TJ, I really like this, and you haven't subscribed to this channel, it is high time that you subscribe. So hit the subscribe button. Thank you for all of those that have participated in the comments. I'm trusting that the information has been of value to you at this time. And the last thing that I also want to mention is that if this is something that you are enjoying to listen to and you want to do it, but you just don't have the time and you're too scared to do it, and you're thinking, hey, property could be, I don't have all of the money, but at least I've got 100,000, 200,000, then you might want to partner up with me. All of these projects, we always have people that we partner up with, so you can partner up with me for a minimum of 100,000. You can partner up with me, and we can go in and do as many deals as possible out there. We get them all the time. So good night. Enjoy. Have a lekker Sunday tomorrow. Spend some time with the kids and the family, whoever you spend it with. And if you do meet up with me, just say hellos and let's do the introductions and let's make the community bigger. Share this information with other people as well so that they can also learn. This community it thrives by having more people that are doing the same thing. That way we start sharpening each other's irons. Okay, good stuff. And yes, if you're wanting to jump on into the varsity, I am going to put into the comments there where you can get the varsity. So it's www.m5property m5propertyvarsity.com. Okay, right. And that's what it is. And basically, you can jump in and you can click on join now and you can go and buy any course there. But some specials are also coming for November. So watch out for those specials. My name is TJ, Taurai Jack. God bless. Bye.